going to be good. This one's going to be really good. So, this week we're going to be talking about the energy that is active for the collective. And so right now we are in the 47th gene key of transmutation, and this was activated to us by the sun. So everyone, regardless of if you have 47 in your gene key or human design chart, you have this, it's active. And with this one, the different frequencies go from oppression to transmutation to transfiguration. It's all about shifting perspectives. This is located in the Anja Center, which is about conceptualization, and it is. Hey, Crystal. It's just in the Anja Center, so it's the upper part of the Anja Center, and this is. I'm going to read from the guidebook for you guys so you guys have an understanding about what this is before we start diving into everything. There's a lot. There's a lot because I want to give you tools to help you navigate this week, because this gene key is kind of tricky and your mind is going to want to go a million miles a minute and it'll start oppressing you. So this is the quote that they have in the book. The only way to transcend suffering is to move more deeply into it, embracing every feeling and event that comes to you. This is the quote from the Wisdom Keeper's Oracle deck in our guidebook. And like I said, the shadow is oppression, the gift is transmutation, and the city is transfiguration. And in the book, they make reference to Jesus and how despite his own oppression, he was able to transmute the sins of all. And then transfiguration happened when he attained the rainbow body, which is when he activated his Ka, his light body. And I think it's either called a Ka or a Ra. I don't remember. And he rose again. So this gene key is super awesome, super powerful. And if you guys have Gene Key 47 or Gate 47 in your design, let me know in the comments. Let me know what sphere it's in too. So if you have it in your Gene Key, what sphere is 47 in, if you have it. So this is, I'm going to read the wisdom story and the gift. So this is my wisdom story. My wisdom story. She says, I had a recurring nightmare as a child. It always ended with a bearded man hovering over me with a giant blade as I guarded something behind my back. I always woke up screaming just before the blade touched my chest. My father was a weak and quiet man. He didn't speak of his oppressive family past or believe in much of anything. My mother was a woman who religiously embraced the dogma of the church, convinced a negative entity was attached to her daughter as she dragged me to church. For years, I prayed for forgiveness and to be rid of the evil, but the nightmare only intensified. By the time I was a young woman, I avoided sleep at all costs. One night, I was so overcome with hopelessness that I broke down in front of my father, finally sharing the dream with him. He became strangely curious, as if he needed to know more. His surprising response awakened a curiosity and courage in me. That night, I willingly went to sleep. Though I still awoke before the knife fell, I was able to receive more information. The next night, the same thing happened, then the next. I got to a point where I could enter the dream at will like a sleuth, always leaving seconds before my murder. My father hungered for each new detail that came through. It was as if the two of us were assembling pieces from an ancient puzzle. One night, I detected faint lettering on the bearded man's belt. I drew the 3 letters for my father. He ran to his room and rushed back with an old book full of Nordic symbols, given to him by his grandfather that he'd never mentioned. Immediately, we saw a meaning with the 3 symbols: journey, gift, and joy. I'd never seen my father's eyes glow like that. I couldn't wait to go to sleep that night. This time, I let the dagger plunge into my heart. There was no blood, no pain, just radiant light filling my chest. Turning to face what I'd been protecting all those years, I saw a treasure box overflowing with jewels. The bearded man reappeared, this time beaming with kindness. Instead of a sword, he held a picture of my father as a child in his hand. I don't know why this is making me emotional. He said, "Tell your father I ask for his forgiveness. Tell him that I love him." My father and I were never the same after that. Our ancestral relations strengthened, healed, and transformed us. Today, there is nothing I'm not willing to see or feel. I uncover treasure after treasure. And this is my gift to you. I'm here to ask you to move towards what terrifies you. You may think you have a fixed identity, but you don't. You are forever changing. You are designed to bump against limitations and then dissolve into something else. Transmutation is the key to your evolution. I come when it's time to hold nothing back, to embrace everything and to live dangerously. Release all definitions of who you are or what you're capable of. Get comfortable with fear. Willingly take the lid off of Pandora's box. If you truly want to transcend your suffering, move deeply into it. Surrender. You can make a quantum leap at any moment, and your true purpose will be revealed. So cool. So with transmutation, and I have this in my EQ sphere, and it is always me transmuting my emotions, feeling them, moving into them, and then transmuting them to attain gratitude for what's going on. And so there's a lot going on in the collective right now because of, you know, on the East Coast, there's that hurricane that's coming, and a lot of people are in fear. And so when you are feeling into the collective energy, it's very high strung, and there's a lot of emotion swirling around in there. So when we're able to discern what's ours and what's not, particularly when it's not ours, it's important for us to feel it, identify that it's not ours, and then we can transmute it. Instead of being like, that's not mine, bye. You're sending it back like you got it. It's always important to transform it into something better so that when you're sending it back, that will wash over someone else like that it's theirs. So say somebody on the East Coast that's terrified with the storm and they're freaking out, they're sending their emotions like a beacon to somebody who can help them, at praying, asking for help, asking God to save them, asking God to spare their family. And it's coming to you. It's coming to you, and you're feeling it. Are you going to just send it back to them and ignore them? Or are you going to take the time to feel it, recognize that it's not yours, and transform it into something like, there's a hummingbird at my front door, like just hovering. Or are you going to transmute it into something that you can give back to them, like love or hope or truth, compassion, freedom, any of those things? Is there something that you can transmute it with to then give it back to them so that it's returning to them and easing their pain, easing their fear, easing their suffering? So welcome those feelings in, whether they're yours or not. It's just discerning if it is yours. Because if it is yours, it's time to go and get that honest investigation in there and figure out what's going on for you, and not push down or suppress those feelings or push away. We don't need to push away or push down anything. That's why Gene Key 47 is linked to Gene Key 22. That's the programming partner. And we know that 22 is all about honoring our feelings, emotions, and letting divine grace fill us. But in order for that to happen, we have to look at what's coming to us and not be afraid of it. Because sometimes these waves hit us and we're not ready for them. And they could be of our own making, or they could be somebody else's. But regardless of where the wave came from, know that it's coming to you for a reason, for you to look at, for you to transmute, for you to do whatever with. So you can either feel oppressed by this new thing and feel a victim of it, or you can take it and do something with it and send it back. And we're talking energy right here. Last night, I was listening to my friend Johanna, who you guys know. She did an activation for the 47th gene key, and I was listening to it, and it was so interesting because, like I said, 47's in the Anja Center, conceptualization. It's where your mind starts running, talking. I could not focus on that activation for the life of me. I kept hearing, get hummingbird food, get razors, and then I was starting to download all this other stuff, and I was like, I'm trying to focus on this, but it seemed like I was so wide open. So I was feeling almost like a victim to my mind, like my mind wouldn't be quiet. And that's the shadow of oppression that shows up for us. And sometimes it goes in the form of like these spiral thoughts, like, why is this happening to me? Like this searching or this fear. Like I have a fear that's like something's going to happen. And your mind just keeps going there and going there and going there. And you feel oppressed by your own mind. You feel a victim by your own mind. So we have obviously our mind, our body, and our soul, energy, emotions. So we can feel oppressed by our mind, oppressed by our body. Say our body is sick. You have dis-ease. You can feel oppressed by that dis-ease by your body, or say emotions. You can feel oppressed by your emotions, because when we attach to these things and we make them about us, they become us, and then they become our experience, and then we feel like we can't get out of them because we give our power away to those things, that experience. And the more detached we can become from it, the easier it is for us to transmute. We need to understand that we're our own imprisoners. We're the victims of ourselves. We are the victim and the abuser because we're choosing this. So let me see. Oh, Krista, it's your evolution. Perfect. This will be important for you then. So particularly in the evolution sphere, this is through the pathway of challenge. So it goes from the life's work. So 22 is your life's work and 47 is your evolution. So working together with those two allow you to then get into your breakthrough. So understanding those, your pathway of challenge, allows you to then have those epiphanies to then catalyze the breakthrough, to activate your radiance, to have you be in your radiance. And then your whole body heals, your whole experience heals because you're radiant. And you're tapped into your own life force energy. So with transmutation, transfiguration, and oppression, we're seeing this come up in different ways this week for different reasons. Like I woke up in the middle of the night last night. I couldn't go back to sleep. I had so much adrenaline. I had so much going through my mind. And I was like, I was feeling a lot of energy. So my mind was active, my body was active, feeling all this energy. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit with this and be with this. Because when we're in the shadow of anything and we're in discomfort or dissatisfaction, we need to move into that discomfort and accept, embrace, and allow it. We have to allow it to happen instead of pushing it away or pushing it down. Accept that this is where we're at right now and embrace it, because in that embracing your present, you're able to move into new vistas. You're able to open up a portal for yourself to move past it. And so I had to do that. Okay, this is where I'm at right now. This is okay. And then eventually I was able to move through it, quiet the mind. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I was like, oh, I think this is because I'm needing to understand this for the 47 gene key, because I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow. So I was really feeling the new energy, and the new energy was very intense. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hope this isn't like this I always say this whenever I feel new energy. I'm always like, I hope this isn't like this forever. And then I remind myself, it's never like this forever. It always is just intense in the beginning to get your attention, and then it assimilates and merges in and calms down. But it almost has to be intense in the beginning so that you can notice it. Then you notice how your thoughts are spinning, and what are you thinking about, and why are you thinking about that. You need to become the witness, the observer of your experience, instead of being engulfed in the tornado of it. Because you could spiral downward. But it takes mindfulness and awareness to then position yourself back into the center, the eye of the storm, where you're not, it's not that you're not feeling, it's just you're not of it. You're in it, but you're not of it. You are not the storm. You get to witness the storm. It's that awareness. So that's where I was at last night. And then this morning I was contemplating. I didn't read the Gene Key book, and I haven't read 47 in a long time. And I kept feeling like I don't want to look at Richard Rudd's definitions. And I have a ton highlighted too. I kind of want, ooh, now I'm like, ooh, non-coding DNA. I'm gonna read this later because now I'm like, I've been playing and toying with that non-coding DNA, and it's right there. I was like, oh, okay, I was meant to see that. But anyways, I didn't read it because I was like, okay, how did transmutation come up for me in my life, and how does it show up? So we're gonna go back to talking about with when you're feeling oppressed by your emotions, your mind, and your energy / body. What do? Because it's all about recognizing that you're in the shadow, that you then begin to transform it. But you have to recognize you're in the shadow or the victim pattern so that you can start transforming it and transmuting it, moving into transmutation. So let's start with the 7 R's, because I want to talk about the mind, because our mind is our biggest and greatest addiction. And so when we are feeling something that is not comfortable, that is fear-based, or we're confused about it, or we're not ever confused in our emotions. Our mind is confused with our emotions. So say we're feeling fear, something comes up, something triggers us, and we don't know why exactly we're triggered so much, but we're triggered. It may be a little thing, like my husband left his socks on the floor over there, and I feel like I'm always picking up his socks, right? So if his socks are on the floor over there, I'm triggered by it. It's just freaking socks. You could pick them up and put them away. But because we attach to the past, and that's why this Gene Key title is called Transmuting the Past, because we're taking that collective repository of our history with us. And then I'm comparing all the times that he left his socks on the floor for me to pick up, and it's becoming this big pile of socks for me. Because I think about all the times he fucking left his socks on the ground. And then it becomes a trigger for me, right? But if I was living totally in the present, not thinking about the past, it would just be, okay, 2 seconds, done. But we make it into a bigger thing, and we oppress ourselves. So the 7 R's that I created, oh man, in the beginning of my spiritual awakening, they were downloaded to me. Jesus shared them to me. And I got piece by piece in the shower. The shower would be my place that I would download and receive. That is where I receive. And it still is where I receive. But that's where I would go in the morning and get all these things. And so little by little, I would get more and more, because I was doing it for myself, and Jesus was directing me on where to go next. So I got pieces of the puzzle, and I'm going to tell you what the 7 R's are so that you can use it when you feel like you're stuck in your mind and triggered the hell out. Because when we're in pain, when we're in a trigger, when we're in fear, we have to move into it. We can't dishonor that. It's there for a reason. And so it's important for us to be to turn ourselves into the witness instead of the person who is attached to that discomfort. We can have celebration and happiness while we're in uncomfortable situations. It's our level of attachment to that thing, or that level of our perception or understanding, that then creates that feeling for us. So you're feeling something, and you're triggered, and your mind is starting to come against you, and you're thinking all these things. Say, like in a relationship, you're like, I don't know how long I can be in this relationship with this person. I need to leave them. I need to think about my happiness. But let me tell you, your happiness is your thing. You can't expect them to make you happy. You have to make you happy. So if they triggered you, they're a mirror. Remember, all of our relationships are mirrors for us. And so if they're triggering you, if you're in conflict, the conflict is all your own. You feeling like you need to defend yourself is all your own. And so it's important for us to not blame when we're in trigger. You did this to me. You caused this. I need to leave you so I don't need to experience this anymore. No, they can't do anything. They can act, but it's your responsibility in how you respond or react or project, right? So the first R, hey Cheryl, the first R is recognize / realize. So first, you have to be mindful and understand that you're triggered. You need to look at how you're reacting and say, oh, I'm in pain, I'm in weakness, I'm triggered. And recognize that you're in the shadow. So the first is about recognizing and realizing that you're in the shadow to begin with. And that's a high five to begin with. Like, that's being mindful of when we're in the shadows. I mean, come on, that's, the battle's halfway over. You just realized it, and now you get to move forward from that. So it's first recognizing and realizing that you're in the shadow. And then whenever there's a trigger, it's always a compiled effect. It's always because of other events that came together to make this an even bigger trigger. But if you were experiencing this genuinely for the first time, it would be a different feeling. You wouldn't necessarily be triggered. But I feel like because we live linearly and because we remember the past, our mind remembers the past, we start to stack these marbles to kind of create these triggers so that it's heavier for us. So we feel it more intensely. Because the first time we experienced it, we didn't deal with it. And the second time we experienced it, we didn't deal with it. And the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, we were constantly in victim. So guess what? The next time it happens, the trigger is always going to put you in shadow. Versus learning the lesson, understanding the experience, and shifting into gift. And when you shift into gift, the next time it happens, you get to shift into gift instead of staying in shadow. So you get to feel the weight of those shadow experiences. And so the more you're triggered, the more you get to take responsibility for that trigger. And so the second R is remember. So you need to remember the experience that shaped and defined that shadow. So keep going back. Obviously, you're going to be like, excuse me, I need to take some time for myself because I'm in shadow and I do not want to bring to the table this energy. So let me take time out for myself. And it may not happen in a day. This whole process may happen really quickly, or it may happen over the course of a week. But it's important for us not to rush the process, but to be able to be amicable in our relationship with the other person that has triggered us. See, that has triggered us. They didn't trigger us. We triggered ourselves. Right? So it's important for us to leave the conversation until we can come back with clarity and peace, inner peace. So we're needing to remember the experience that shaped and defined that shadow. So you can go back and you can even, as long as you like, you can either try to remember it here or you can sink into your heart and ask yourself, what was the first instance that caused this trigger? Right? And you can ask yourself that. You can even keep going back and back and back until you get to your childhood, and then you're like, oh, this is why it happened. Right? Or you may have taken on something from your parents. It's just, you don't know where this remembering is going to go. And don't think that you have to keep going back. If you get stuck and you're at this one point and you're like, okay, this is as far back as I can remember, work with that. And then allow yourself to, because guess what? That event is no longer in the present moment for you. So it's very much easier for you to become objective observers about that event. Don't put yourself in there and then become of it, and then you go down the spiral and you're like, oh, now I'm remembering that, and he did that to me, and no. Allow yourself to look at it as if you are seeing it as this is the you, the present you is looking at the old you. And don't try to like place blame on anyone. Try to really understand why this happened, why you are feeling the way you're feeling, because the odds are it's always your own fault, your own responsibility. They can't make you feel a certain way. You get to decide how you respond to that. Right? So remembering, then when you got that idea, that memory in your mind, you start to reflect. So that's the third R, is reflect. We did recognize or realize the shadow, remember the experience that kind of started this trigger, and then reflect. So you're going to reflect on the outcome and process and patterns. Patterns are so important because those patterns are going to lead you to other events that you experience the same thing. And you're like, oh my God, my pattern is if this happens, I react this way and I get this outcome. So Johanna talks about this formula. It's experience plus response equals outcome. So when you're looking at the experience and you're looking at how you responded, not how they respond, don't even look at them. It's not about them, it's about you. Look at how you responded and what outcome did you get from that response. So you're looking for the pattern. So that's why we're reflecting. We're looking at it, looking for those patterns. You can journal about it. And then the fourth R is receive. And that's not going to come from here. It's going to come from here. So you're going to find these patterns. You're going to do all this stuff. You're going to put all these pieces together. And then you're going to sit. And you're going to allow yourself to receive. And you're also going to receive insight on how it has shown you the light. You're going to receive insight on how this was a blessing. You're going to receive insight on how this is something to be grateful for. It's really about getting into the attitude of gratitude. So you see how we're shifting, recognizing the patterns, and then this is the point where we shift into gratitude. And looking at all the things that we can be grateful for about this. The grateful for recognizing this now. Maybe you have nothing to be grateful for looking at that situation. You're like, everything in that was not good. Was uncomfortable. Didn't like it at all. But you can be grateful about something within it. I'm so glad it's over. I'm so glad I had these epiphanies on how I respond or react to situations. I'm so glad that we've moved past this, that our communication style has changed since then. I'm so grateful because that is the past me. And the new me, the present me, has made so much evolution, so much growth. And so why do I need to continue to hold these marbles of the past when that's not even who I am now? So you're able to let them go. So that's why the fifth one is release. Release. You got to release those marbles. You got to release the negative association you've had because now you're changed for the better, right? You're not that person in the past. The reason you're so triggered now is because you've collected all these marbles of these past experiences. You can let them go now. They're weighing on you. They're like links in a chain of your bondage. So they're weighing you down. And they're triggering you more. Why do we want them? We're not that same person. If you believe in your personal development, personal growth, and personal evolution, why would you continue to hold energy from the past you when you have turned into this new energy? So it's about releasing those marbles. And you can go back and think about all the other times and go through each event and start releasing those marbles. Or you can simply say, I release everything that is associated with this trigger that's in the past. And I'm only here to focus on the present. And so once you release that attachment, it's like your trigger gets less and less and less and less charged. Because you're not living in the past. You're starting to transmute the past. And so here's another step. So we're on 5, right? So 6 is rewrite. Rewrite. How would you handle things differently in a similar situation? This is where you are learning. This is where you start to learn. And how you understand by recognizing your patterns, this response or reaction gets me this outcome. If I responded this way, you got to get curious. When you're rewriting, you got to get curious and get into wonder. I wonder if I would drop my defenses and respond in this way, what outcome would I get? And then this becomes a grand experiment, and it becomes fun because you're not attached anymore. You're not triggered anymore. It's very much a game of let's see how we can stay in the gift frequency more and more and more and more. Right? So you're constantly recognizing the shadows, stopping yourself before you react in the old way, because you start creating these patterns, and they're samsaras, they're loops. It's like your mind tells you how to react because it's reacted that way so many times. And you're rewriting the program. You're going into your epigenetics. Like they're talking about, this is where the download's coming from. The non-coding DNA. That junk DNA. You're using epigenetics, your awareness, to rewrite the pattern of the past. I'm getting chills. You are no longer going to operate, react, project, respond in that manner anymore because you know exactly what outcome you get from that. So if you're wanting a change in a situation, you got to change your response. You got to change how you act. It's up to you, my sweet one. It's up to you. So that's 6, right? How are we rewriting this? 7, last one. Return to the now, to presence, to the present. We've spent all this time in the past looking at all this stuff, rewriting it, releasing it, recognizing all of this shit, having gratitude for the shit, and then we get to return to the present, where guess what? We've just taken all those marbles out of our sack, because that made it heavy. I mean, come on. A lot of you feel that weight on your shoulders, and half of it is your own shit. Speaking for myself included. I feel like half the time when I'm channeling, it's for me too. So I'm going to watch the replay, and I'm going to listen to myself talk to myself. So take that shit out of your bag. Put those marbles down. Repurpose those marbles. Give it to a kid. Let them play with it. Let them transmute it into play and fun and joy, because they will. So if you're thinking about marbles, we're going to rewrite how we carry our shit. Because we can look at all these marbles and they're weighing us down. Our backpack is getting weighed down. We can take these marbles out, look at those marbles and be like, all right, I don't need these marbles anymore. This one represents this. This one represents that. This one represents, guess what? All those are the way you used to do things. They're not the way you do things now. So let's take those experiences, those reactions, those projections, those old ways of doing things. Let's take those marbles, let's hand them over. Let's donate them. Give them to some kids, because they're going to make gold out of the shit. Because those kids are alchemists. You don't even need to teach them. They're going to play with anything. They're going to play with a paper box. I mean, not a paper box. They're going to play with a box. Say you boxed yourself in, and you're like, I am projecting myself, and I'm going to box myself in with these labels, these excuses, these judgments. And then when you do, when the day comes where you unbox yourself, what are you going to do with that box? Give it to a kid, because they're going to make a fort out of it, and they're going to have fun with it. And it's no longer going to be a protection mechanism. It's no longer going to be these judgment, these labels. They're going to create a whole play with it, because they're going to play with it, right? So you can just, I mean, and that's thinking about it in your energetic mind's eye. What do you do with this shit once you have it? Let someone else transmute it. You're transmuting some of it by rewriting the story, right? So the last one is return. Return to the present. You can't keep living in the past. You need to return home. So you return home. You no longer have that charge associated with that. You can come back to the conversation that you were having, and you can approach it with equilibrium and harmony. And it's no longer conflict. It's no longer oppression. It's no longer those shadows, because you're no longer triggered or attached to that shadow. It's our own attachment to the shadow that keeps us in the shadows. So now you're not attached to it. Now you get to approach it with neutrality, with inner peace. And you get to not be defensive. Because why are you defending yourself? Right? And you can talk normally. And it may not even be a conversation with a person. It may be your own trigger, how you feel about yourself. Because there's tons of different ways that we can use the 7 R's. And it's not going to just be a trigger in a biofeedback loop between a person. It could be between yourself. When did you believe that you were unworthy? When did you believe that you did not deserve unconditional love? When did you believe that you could not be successful? And going back, and rewrite in those instances where you failed, those instances where you experienced conditional love. Because guess what? You're not there anymore. You're here. And the new you is different than the old you. So we're going to use this to go back and rewrite, to reprogram. Because the reason we're in this junk to begin with is because we have an old software on our computer that's running. And then now we can view that as, what is it? Obsolete. I'm like, what is it? Obsolete. It's obsolete. We get to upload a new program, a new way to respond. So that's why it's important. Event plus response equals outcome. E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. Response or reaction. Remember, responding is when you have neutrality. Reacting, projecting, is when there's a trigger or a charge. You've associated yourself with that feeling, and now you're throwing that feeling back at the person. Oh, I'm angry. They made me angry. I'm going to throw this anger back at them. Or if it's a biofeedback loop between yourself, you beat yourself up. You judge yourself. That anger then is directed inward at you. It's either reactive or repressive. How do you throw that anger? How do you throw that depression, that sadness? I'm going to look at this map of consciousness that I have. Okay, so I'm going to share this in the group. It's a map of consciousness. It's the levels. It's a map of consciousness levels. So when you have a pain, a weakness, a trigger that's showing up, you feel it in your body, you feel it in your energy, you're going to go, you normally go to your mind to try to understand it, right? Because in the map of consciousness, the levels go shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride. That's where the triggers are happening. You're going to feel one of those feelings, and it's going to trigger something in you to create discomfort, dis-ease, unease, all these things in your body. And it's through our courage, which is that neutrality zone, through our courage to look at that and to go through those 7 R's, that we're able to alchemize and shift into a higher level of awareness and consciousness. So the higher ones, courage is the neutral point. Courage is where things start happening. It's where you're no longer in a negative charge and you're not in a positive charge yet. The negative charged emotions that I just said are destructive energy. And they're contracted, contracted. They make you implode on yourself. When you reach courage and you have the courage to go within, the courage to rewrite, the courage to look at yourself, to really look at it's so easy to look at the other person, isn't it? So easy. So easy to tell them how they're doing it wrong. Come within and see yourself, right? So that's where the courage comes from. The courage to see yourself, the courage to honor yourself, the courage to honor these feelings that you're feeling. I accept that I'm feeling guilt. I'm going to allow myself to feel this guilt, and I'm going to embrace this guilt. And now I'm going to have the courage to rewrite this guilt so that I'm no longer triggered into this emotion. I'm going to go into the past, see where this happened, transmute that, and rewrite it. Rewrite the program. So I'm no longer experiencing this anymore because I'm changing my response to the event. I'm rewriting it. And once you get out of that, you become, so it goes from courage to neutrality, to willingness, to acceptance, to reason, to love, to joy, to peace, to enlightenment. And this is a scale. And if you guys are familiar with muscle testing, you can muscle test to see what part of the scale you're at, right? It's pretty cool. It's from David R. Hawking's book, and I'll show you the book. Power versus Force. This is the book, Power versus Force. So I'll post this map of consciousness so you can kind of see. And then you can kind of feel into, I'm triggered, what am I feeling? Not, why am I triggered? First ask, what am I feeling? And go into those emotions. Your mind will loop you back into the old patterns very quickly. So it's better to have a framework. That's why I created the 7 R's. Because it's good to have a framework to understand how and what steps do you take to alchemize and transmute the past and rewrite your program. And that's why the gene keys are so cool, is because It allows you to become those conscious creators. It allows you to use epigenetics to reprogram your DNA. Because your DNA tells you how to react, how to respond. Okay, release this level of cortisol, release this level of dopamine, release this level of oxytocin, right? And it does it, and it triggers a response. And within that response, you get an outcome. So it's important for us to go through those 7 R's so that we can rewrite our program, so that when this situation comes, you're going to be flooded with better peptides, better hormones, the ones that are going to empower you, give you the courage to move into the upper realms of your consciousness, not down into pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, shame, into neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. You see? So, what do you guys think about the 7 R's? I haven't shared it with anybody. I've not shared this with anybody yet. I was still like mulling it over and contemplating it and working with it for myself, but I haven't shared it. This is the first time I shared it. Actually, my close friend Vanessa knows about it, and she's like, wow, this is so good, but I haven't shared it publicly yet. So there we go. Okay, so we talked about the mind. We talked about what to do, how we can transmute the past, our triggers, what's coming up for us to make us feel oppressed, what's coming up for us to make us feel like we're in the shadows. And so now we have calmed our mind. Our mind is okay now, right? But what happens if you're feeling all the feels? Your mind hasn't taken over yet. You're feeling discomfort, disease. You're feeling something in your body. You're feeling energy. You're feeling that emotion. Say you're feeling shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride. You're feeling one of those. What can you do? Or you don't even know how to describe that energy. You just know you feel an energy that feels heavy, dense. You don't feel good. And your mind hasn't taken over to rationalize it yet. Because sometimes it's someone else's, sometimes it's yours, sometimes it's a response to something. It's a guidance system. And so you can ask yourself if you need to go deeper, if your mind needs to rationalize, if you need to connect it to something, or you can simply use the 7 rays of light to transmute it for yourself, right? So again, remember how we were talking about in the beginning? There's a lot of people on the East Coast who are freaking out because of this storm. You're going to pick up on some of that energy. And then you're going to try to write it into your own reality. But it's not even yours and it didn't even come from you. So when your mind's not immediately telling you, we're going through this is why we're feeling this. If you're just sitting here and you're like, oh my God, I'm all of a sudden feeling this. Nothing here triggered it. It was energetic. You picked it up. And so what can we do? Because remember, I told you, don't just send it back to them. Take that back. I don't want your shit. No. What if somebody was praying to God, praying for relief, release, for help, because they were so scared? What if they were in fear? And fear is level 100 on the map of consciousness scale. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 below courage. Say they were in fear, right? And they sent it to you. It was a prayer they sent out to God, a prayer they sent out to the universe, a prayer they sent out to source. And you needed to transmute it. You're not oppressed by their feelings. Observe their feelings, observe that emotion, observe that energy. You might not even understand the energy that you're feeling. You just know it's dense. You know, if you were weighing it on a scale, it would be in the destructive energy level, not the creative energy. Destructive. So, because when creative energy comes to us, we're like, yeah, okay, I take that, I'm going to use it. And then we use it to our advantage. And we're like, I don't know where it came from, but thank you so much. Thank you, Lord. I'm feeling creative. Thank you, Lord. I'm feeling joy. I'm super excited. I'm going to take that energy and it's going to become part of my reality. Or when you feel these denser, lower vibration energies, you're like, not subscribing to this. This is not an email I want. Unsubscribe. Let me tell you, we need to transmute that energy. It's our responsibility. When we're aware, we have this responsibility. So instead of just sending it back and saying, boundaries, adios, we don't need to do that. Instead, we can bring in some rays of light. We can transmute it. You can bring it into Mother Earth. You can ground yourself. You can send it to Mother Earth. She can send it back to you. You can send it to them. Or you can send it down to her and have her help transmute it, and then she can send it back to them. Travel through all the layers of the earth back to where it came from, come up through the ground, and then come back to that person. Maybe in the form of something like a hummingbird coming to your window. So that person's in fear, and this little ray of hope comes in the form of a hummingbird to tell them, I'm your messenger, it's okay. And you get to decide how you're going to transmute it. Set the intention. How are you sending it back to them? You don't need to make it really specific. If you're going to send it to Mother Earth, be like, give them a beautiful sign. Or you can take it, because you have transmutation centers in your body. So your hands, your feet, your heart, all areas where you can transmute energy. If you've ever felt stuff coming out of your hands, that's transmutation energy. It's like these flames. Imagine these blue, whatever flames. So, well, here's the different rays of light. And you can see these different rays of light in your hands, or you can bring them into you, into your heart, and allow your heart to transmute that energy. You can breathe in all that energy that you're feeling. So say you're feeling that fear, and the fear is showing up in your gut, and you're like, oh, I don't understand why I'm scared. Why am I scared? Why am I feeling fear? Don't ask why. Allow, accept, and embrace it. Bring it into your heart and transmute it. So as you're breathing it into your heart, because it's not going to harden your heart, it's not going to kill your heart cannot be destroyed. That's unconditional love. And it's going to accept it. It's going to embrace it. It's going to transform it. So bring it into your heart and pick a color. Pick a color that you're going to transmute with. So here's the different 7 rays of light. Here's the 7 rays of light. So you have divine power. Divine power is blue. You have divine wisdom. That's yellow gold, a yellow gold energy. You have divine love, pink energy. Divine purity, it's a white crystal energy. Divine truth, a green gold energy. Divine compassion, can't read my writing, purple gold, purple gold. Divine freedom, violet amethyst. Diamond, and then diamond white light, source light. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7, and then I added in diamond white light. So anyways, the violet amethyst, freedom, is a beautiful energy. Because remember, within the gene keys, 55 is victimization, and then we go to freedom. So when you're bringing in divine freedom, that violet amethyst color, you can imagine that violet amethyst coming out of your hands, coming out of your feet, coming out of your, like in your heart. If you're not feeling it, just imagine the divine freedom coming through your crown, going into your heart, like passing through all your chakras and going into your heart. And then why wouldn't you pulsate it out into your whole being? So allow yourself to pull that fear into your heart, transmute it with that divine freedom energy. That's that violet amethyst color. Mix and merge together. You're alchemizing. And it's becoming this new energy. And then move that energy. Allow your heart to pump that energy throughout your whole being. And then you can then set the intention to then put it into Mother Earth and be like, I have a present for you, but I also need you to deliver this to somebody else. I don't know who it came from, but just send it to the owner. Return to sender. And it's like you wrote this love letter for them. Their freedom. You're sending it back to them. Isn't it cool? And so it's going to come in the form of maybe the divine messenger is an animal, or maybe it's just peace washes over them. Freedom washes over them. You don't have to know. You don't have to be witness of it. Just know that's what it's doing. So, isn't that cool? That's cool too, right? So using the 7 rays to transmute, transform energy. So, okay, what else was there? I had mind. We talked about mind. So the 7 R's was for the mind. The 7 rays of light was for the energy, the emotions. I think that's all I got for now. Oh, okay. So if you guys are on, and I know that some of you are going to need to catch the replay, I'm going to post the map of consciousness in the comments here so that you guys have that as well, so that when I was talking about the different levels of consciousness, so that you have this to look at too. I wanted to give you guys kind of a focus point for, okay, if I'm wanting to contemplate this, what sphere of my gene key should I look into? Should I activate? Should I experience? What sphere needs to be reprogrammed? And how can I use the 7 R's or the 7 rays of light to transmute the shadow into the gift? See how this is a really cool gene key? It gives you all the wisdom, all the knowledge, all the knowing to be able to rewrite your past and to transform your present. So, if you want me to pull a card for you to give you a focal point for what part of your gene key chart you want or would be most optimal to use the 7 R's or the 7 rays on, let me know and I'll pull a card for you. I know there's only 2 of you guys on right now. Patty, because you're on and I see you on, watch the replay, and I'm going to post this in the devotion experience so you guys can kind of have this too. Use your life's work. We're focusing on our life's work right now. So I want you to use the 7 R's and the 7 rays however way you want to with your life's work, since that's what we're focusing on right now. So that's your homework. Okay, Krista, we're gonna pick a card for you. So what sphere should Krista bring her attention to so that she can use the 7 R's or the 7 rays to transmute into the gift frequency? So what's her focal point? What is she focusing on? What is she contemplating? Oh, I lost it. I was questioning my pull. Let me stand up. I need a pull. I need to feel a strong pull. Give me a pull. Give me a pull on my sacral that lets me know which sphere. Yep. Your EQ. Emotions. Go into your EQ. Wait, did you say that the EQ was 47 for you too? No, it's your evolution. Go into your EQ and use this stuff that we talked about today to transform and transmute the shadow frequency into the gift frequency. So I want you to start contemplating and start seeing what shows up in your life. And you can just ask yourself, ask your higher self, activate that gene key number that's in your EQ. Activate the gift of blah, blah, blah. Activate the 27th gene key, whatever is in your EQ. And see what shows up for you as you're contemplating this. And contemplate this for like a week. Let it permeate, let it marinate. Then EQ and vocation are 12. Perfect. So both of them. See how both of them show up. We pulled the EQ card. So it's emotions. Yeah. Okay. Amy, I'm going to do you now too. So you can watch the replay. We talked about the 7 R's of healing the mind, and we talked about the 7 rays of light. So, Amy, what sphere should you focus on? Purpose. This is a perfect one. Your purpose sphere affects your quality of consciousness. So your quality of life is determined by this sphere. Okay, look into your fears. I said fear on accident. This sphere. So look into the fear around your shadow. What is your purpose sphere? And what is that shadow? And what kind of fears are brought up? And you can do the 7 R's. You can do the 7 rays of light. And just bring in whatever color you think. You don't even need to, I mean, there's a rainbow of colors available to you. So you can even just feel into what color you'd like to bring in. You can even look at the chart, the map of consciousness, each of the different levels are color-coded too. So you can do that too. Although I wouldn't associate red and orange and yeah, whatever. Anyways, so go into that sphere, your purpose sphere, and just see what comes up for you and activate it. Remember, all you guys have to do to activate the energy, simple. Believe that you are a creator, that you command your own energy, and that you can activate, release, transform, alchemize, transmute, anything, as long as you just state it and tell the energy what to do. So if you're wanting to activate the gene key, just state it. Just say, I activate the blah, blah, blah gene key, and it is so. And then see it show up in your life. Amy, you're getting really good at tapping into the gene keys before I pull them, even. I saw your comment, and you're already, I mean, you're already have an awareness of it. It's like you're an oracle, future telling. You know what cards I'm going to pull before I pull them. And then you're like, oh, of course it's those. I've already been experiencing it for a couple days. So anyways, I hope that this was helpful. Do you guys have any questions about transmutation and transfiguration or anything like that? I will post my 7 R's. I think I'll make a document, not a document, like an image of it so that you guys have it that way. Yeah, so this was a co-creation with me and Jesus. Me and J-Man. And it's interesting because 47, that talks about Jesus. So it's not a coincidence that a year ago I made the 7 R's with Jesus, and then Gene Key 47. It's like all coming full circle, guys. So anyways, enjoy, and I hope that this was helpful. Thank you. I love my shirt too. What does it say? Born free, stay wild. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we just talked about the violet amethyst flame, divine freedom. God, this is so good. I just can't make this shit up. I don't know what's gonna come out of my mouth, and I'm like, okay, here's all the downloads. Thank you. Got it. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me, and those of you catching the replay. And I will see you guys later. Bye, everybody.